Hey everyone, and welcome back to my Achilles recovery journey. As always, my name is Dr. Stacy Barber. I am the founder and owner of the PhysioFix, and that means that I am a physical therapist myself, and I sustained my own Achilles rupture back in December of 2021, and it is now, well, present day right now, it's August, but I'm gonna recap week 26 to week 30. So that's about roughly around the 6-month mark, and all the exciting things that started to kind of fall into place and kind of how I've been feeling like within that time frame. So if you are new on your journey, please go back to all of the old videos. I used to do weekly videos, so I did week 1, week 2. There were just so many different things and different moving parts of my journey at that point, so I felt like it was within everyone's best interest and my own to document every single step, every single week. And then at a certain point when things started to slow down and it took a while to kind of get to that next phase or to get to the next milestone, I started doing every 2 weeks combined, and then now I'm doing basically a month at a time. So this video will be covering weeks 26, 27, 28, and 29. And we have a lot to cover, so let's jump right to it. So in the last video, I was telling everyone that I had this big goal to be able to hike Zion National Park in Bryce National Park, and y'all, I did it. So within these last 4 weeks, I did a huge thing that was on my bucket list, and I didn't even know if I was going to be able to do it now that I was 6 months post Achilles rupture. But I did it. Everything went really, really well. I was incredibly surprised to realize that things went so well, in fact. So I was training for this for at least the last 6 weeks. I just started ramping up my mileage in terms of walking mileage. And then I started doing hiking, and then I started doing some interval running, and you can go back to the last video and the one before that to kind of see some of that. In this last phase, right before I did the huge hike, I was kind of doing 10,000 steps every single day. There was a couple of days, actually I was in the process of moving at the same time, so I was getting 10 to 15,000 steps while carrying heavy boxes, which I think was really great to build that adaptation and to gradually expose my body to more and more steps, because when I started doing Zion, it was 20,000 steps a day. So an incredible amount of steps, more than I had even trained for, more than I've done in a very long time. I'm not a big walker, I'm not a big runner, so I generally do not get that many steps anyways. I would say on average, throughout my day to day, even pre-injury, I would get 5,000 to 8,000 per day, and that's when I'm working with patients. And the days that I do not work with patients, obviously my number of steps is really, really low, embarrassingly low, probably 3,000 to 5,000 on those days. So I made it a diligent effort to really try to get more steps prior to Zion, so I knew that I was not going to be dying. So first day in Zion, we just did this little overlook point, and I'll post pictures and stuff. I felt like my Achilles, it's been stiff. It's still not the same range of motion as it was pre-injury, which is okay, because stiffness sometimes means that we have more tensile strength and force within that Achilles tendon, and that means that it's a stronger tendon. So I've been trying to gradually improve the mobility of my ankle and not force it, because if you force the mobility, then sometimes you can stretch out the tendon and now you lack that power and that strength. So I could just feel it when I'm going up something that's pretty steep or incline. It was kind of hard for me to really have the same stride length when my left leg was back, which is my injured leg, and I really had to push off. But I was doing lots of exercises every morning. You'll see right here. I grabbed a little power band and I hooked it to the hotel desk setup, and I did calf raises 3 different ways. I did kind of these ankle circles, and just to get things loosened up and feeling good. And I've also been using the socks by Naboso, and I recently met with the company too, so I do have a 10% discount, which is the code, the PhysioFix, but you'll see all that below if you want to get your own pair. I've been wearing them every single morning. So I get them on and they have all these little like beads, for a lack of better term. So there's like acupressure points and it's along the entire sock. So I put them on and I feel like what was previously stiff now feels less stiff. I move my ankles around and I feel like I'm ready to handle the day. I've been doing that for probably 6 weeks now. So before the hike, during the hike, this is kind of my normal routine. And then I would do those exercises as you can see right there. And then I would do some ankle mobility stuff, kind of working on dorsiflexion, some calf stretching, and then get ready for the day. So I think that alone was very helpful. And I also brought, because I do have a Normatec at my office, so I brought my own Normatec. So when I was hiking and we were really like, even my friend Amanda, so me and my friend Amanda did this hike together. She was, feeling sore and stiff and achy from just being on our feet so much. Neither one of us do this on the daily. So we brought the Normatec so we could do some swelling control while we were there. And I think that's really seemed to help a lot too, because every single day I'd wake up and I would feel fine, even though that night before when I was going to bed, I felt really like kind of swollen and achy. And I was like, oh no, am I going to be able to do another hike tomorrow? Well, after the first overlook hike, the first day, which was only like, I think it was like 2 miles, nothing crazy because we got there like a half day. We kind of wanted to scope it out. The next day, we did Angel's Landing. So in the morning, we started with Angel's Landing. It took us probably 4 hours to do Angel's Landing. And we also did the chains portion. So we were lucky enough to win the lottery to be able to do the chains portion of Angel's Landing, which is super sketchy. And you have to hold on to kind of the railing because that is your lifeline. If you let go, if you're missing a step or you lose your footing, that's it, folks. Like, it's so scary. Like, people die from this trail. So it was really, really scary because there was a lot of times where I could only put like part of my foot on the rock to be able to like step up. That was it. So if I didn't have that forefoot strength and that control, and if I had not been working that so aggressively during physical therapy with my physical therapist, I would not be prepared. So Angel's Landing, that went pretty well. Like I said, that was about 4 hours total. Then also that second day, we also did the Emerald pools, which is like, there's like a lower, mid, and upper pool. So we did that. So I think that day we did about 25,000 steps, which is a lot. But we Normatec'd, and the next day we woke up and we did the Narrows. So the Narrows, we did the full 12 miles of the Narrows, which is the hike through the water if you're not really familiar with Zion or like the national parks. So you have your trekking poles and you have your water shoes that you have to go through the water with. And it was fine. I would say that the hardest part of the Narrows is that there's rocks everywhere, right? And so you have no idea what you're about to encounter because you can't even see the rocks when you step on them. So you take a step and your foot has to figure out like, all right, which position am I in? Do I need to like rock to the side, rock inward, rock back? If you're only hitting part of the rock, do I need to just go ahead and go forward? So you have to be able to auto adjust very quickly. So that just takes time. So we were very slow. I think that this 12 miles, we were out there probably 6 hours. And we went through some crazy rocks, some slippery rocks. We had to like crawl up these rocks, like check out these pictures, and we had crazy. It's just like some of the parts of the Narrows get pretty dang sketchy. So I'm lucky that I had my friend Amanda there with me, and we met these 2 other girls on our trip too. And so we like pushed each other and helped each other get through all of these kind of more difficult parts of the Narrows. And I didn't have any problems. I didn't roll my ankle at all. I just felt like I was kind of over it on the way back. I think I was like, we'd hit probably 10 miles and we had still had 2 more miles left. And I was like, man, like you have to be so conscious of what you're doing at all times, especially me, being, 6 months post Achilles rupture. I'm just being so cognizant of where my foot is, and it's just taking so much more mental energy and physical energy too, to make sure that I'm like doing everything right. But I felt so incredible after that. I just felt like my foot has been like dying to kind of move in different ways. And that's when I realized that it's when I sit more and when I do more things that are seated for work, like computer work and admin stuff, that my foot feels the worst. So lack of movement is not great. Obviously, too much movement, if you're not ready for it, is not great either. But I say that movement has been key for my progress, and that's why the next day after the Narrows, I woke up and I felt so good. I felt like the best that I felt in years, which is amazing. So the next day we did Bryce, same routine in the morning, same socks that I wore, and then we did the Bryce Canyon, and we probably did like 4 to 6 miles within Bryce, and that's pretty steep as well. A lot of like, up and down, a lot of like loose gravel on that one, as more so than Zion is. But the views were incredible, and then it started downpouring on us, so we had to like run, and I was able to run on the trail and I was fine. So I just feel like that was such a successful trip, and it was like one of those like big mental barriers that I had to get over, and I got over it, and I feel so good. Okay, so I know that was a big part of these last 4 weeks, but even like prior to that trip and then after the trip, I've still been doing 3 days of physical therapy every single week. I am so diligent. I've been having good days and bad days. I would say every single month I have like 2 to 3 bad days. They might be physical therapy days. They just might be a normal day. Like I might have underdid it. Like I just said, lack of movement caused me to feel worse, or I might have overdid it. So, it doesn't matter. I still keep showing up on good days, bad days, doesn't matter. I'll go to physical therapy and we'll adjust as we need to. We've been implementing a lot more plyometrics, a lot of more dynamic exercises. You'll see, we're starting to do more like hopping and jumping and progressive strengthening. So heavier clean pulls, which is sport specific for me as a weightlifter. Heavier single leg calf raises, 3-way calf raises, everything like that. We're trying to progressively overload all of that. And now I am back to wearing 0 heel drop shoes. So as soon as I returned from Zion, I had previously, how I talked to in my last video, how I was wearing like Hoka's, which is like a 4, but it's a rocker, so it's not a true 4, as well as like 12 millimeter drop shoes, which were my Asics. And then I got these New Balance hiking shoes too, so I was wearing those. Those are a 10. So I had 10 and 12s when I was hiking, but I had been like wearing, right before Zion, I was wearing 4 millimeter drop shoes primarily. So I was wearing the rocker 4 and then a true 4 the week leading up to it. And then as soon as I did the trip, I came back, now I'm into 0. So I wear a 0 for 2 days on, and then the 3rd day I'll wear a 4 again, and then I'll wear a 0 for another 2 days, and then a 4. And I've been kind of doing that just to progress back to Vivo barefoot shoes, which are my favorite. I used to wear them all the time. I was a gymnast growing up for 18 years, college gymnast and everything. So being barefoot is kind of like my life. And I really want to get back to doing things more barefoot, so I feel the ground a little bit better. And obviously the transition, like it's been every single time I've had a transition period, it kind of flared up and it was achy, but overall it was pretty dang good. And I'm trying to just be patient with myself, so know that now that I transitioned into 0 drop shoes, there is going to be a little bit more achiness, but that also means I'm working through a larger range of motion when I'm strengthening. So we started doing 0 around, right as soon as I got back. So we started doing flats, and then the next week we started doing anything that was like even a little bit more into a deficit. So now working into a larger range of motion, which I haven't previously done. We've kind of been staying away from that for a while. So we're still progressing in terms of all of those things. Soleus calf raises, Nate has been having me do like 100+ pounds with those at this point. It's brutal, but it's good for me, and I'm very thankful for them to continue to push me. Other than that, I'm starting to do more running on my own now that I'm back. But we're also still in the process of moving, so there's some other factors that I can't really they're not normal factors, but they're not modifiable factors right now. Like I have to pack, I have to move, I have to make sure all this stuff gets done. I have to go to work. So time on my feet is just gonna be, it is what it is right now. So I'm like spending 18 hours a day on my feet, which is not ideal, and I feel the effects of that at the end of the day. So I'm realizing that this is just one of those phases of my life. I would not have been able to tolerate this a few months ago, so thank God I'm even at this phase right now that I can tolerate this much standing and this much moving around. But I do feel the effects of it at the end of the day, so I back off in terms of my training recently. I'm also still training 4 days a week, but is that as heavy or as intense as it was prior to all of this time on my feet? No, it's not. So I'm not going super heavy. I haven't pushed any heavy lifting in the last month, which is okay. There's going to be phases like that in our life, and we just have to learn how to taper back when we need to and realize that this is only temporary. And within the next few weeks, I do plan on all life stuff kind of calming down and me being able to really kind of crack down on progressively strengthening a little bit more and getting ready to return to weightlifting. So that's kind of where I'm at there. You can keep watching all the videos here. So this is kind of what I've been doing and more for physical therapy. And I know more people have questions about the hiking stuff. So I'll tell you that, yeah, the 2 shoes that I brought were the A6, which was a 12 millimeter drop. And I'll link them all below. And then I did the New Balance, which is I think a 10 millimeter drop. Both of those felt really comfortable for my feet. I brought the Normatec, like I said. I brought those Naboso socks. I brought the 4-cord power band. Oh, the socks. I made sure to try out my socks before I went on the trip because, I have anchors in the back of my heel. I'm not sure if you also have anchors in the back of your heel, but it gets pretty dang sensitive in that area behind my heel. So I wanted to make sure that I could tolerate the socks that I was going to be wearing for long durations. So make sure if you're going to go on a hike anytime soon, you kind of try that out too. And we rented trekking poles and the water shoes from the Zion Outfitters, which is right there next to Zion. And I was really concerned because these shoes weren't they're not my shoes. I haven't been training in them. I haven't used them, but they were pretty stable. They're high top shoes. And I think that actually improves the stability of the ankle. Obviously it's an external stabilization. So I was worried, but I didn't have anything to worry about because it was almost like they were overprotected and I had over support because I've been training with a lot less. So I would say that if you're like me and you try to train without a ton of constraints and a ton of support and stability, you're going to be okay when you do things that are even different than your norm. A couple other things. So I went to North Carolina on a trip. The last time I went on the airplane, I was barely able to push up the ramp. When you get off the plane and you leave, there's usually a ramp that you have to walk up. And I didn't have enough strength or power in my Achilles to propel myself forward and get myself up, especially after being in a static position on a plane for that period of time with swelling and stuff. So I didn't have any problems this time. So I felt like that was huge because I obviously went on a trip when I was 6 weeks post-op. Terrible. I was in a, I had my scooter and I was in a boot and everything. So that, and then the next time was I was barely able to walk. That was another phase. And then now I'm able to push myself up. So it's I can feel all of those things that I'm supposed to be feeling, and I can really tell that I'm progressing in the right direction because it really wasn't that long ago that I couldn't even walk up the plane and I had to get help to do anything, and it was a miserable experience. So it was a lot different now and a lot better now to travel now that I'm 6 months post-op. And also we went on a boat and I was kind of worried when I was on the boat just about stepping or rocking because it's obviously an unstable surface, but I didn't have any problems. I even kind of slipped and caught myself a couple times without any problems at all. All those things were mental hurdles, right? Every time we do something and you have this oh shit moment and you have to catch yourself, you're oh, well, that really wasn't so bad. And I've been afraid of all of these things for no reason. Well, there's kind of a reason, but overall, everything's been going really well. And while I was on vacation, I obviously continued my training, continued my rehab, stuff like that. So yeah, everything's been going really well overall. I would still say that Some things I'm still struggling with are kind of that, obviously, ankle dorsiflexion. Don't have in range of that, still lack about 10 degrees. And that's when I'm warmed up. And then in range plantar flexion, I don't have the same heel height on my calf raise on my surgical side as my non-surgical side. I still lack a little bit of range there and a little bit of strength within that range. Obviously, strength is still not where it needs to be, but it's getting closer. I'm kind of closing that gap, especially in terms of the soleus at this point. Gastroc, we haven't been hitting as much because I did rupture near my soleus, so we've been focusing more on that. So that's kind of where I still see some deficits in hopping and jumping. So I feel like, I don't know, I would like to do more segmental, or what's the word I'm looking for? More things that segue me to single leg jumping. So I've been doing a lot of, double leg jumping, and we've been doing like kind of some semi-assisted single leg jumping and hopping, but I haven't done a ton of just single leg jumping and hopping, and I have a mental block. It's like every time that my therapist is like, try this, I'm like, oh, I don't think I can do that. I feel like I need to hold on to something, or I need to do this, or I need to do that. It's just a confidence issue. So I need to do more of those things to develop more confidence and get more reps under my belt to be able to feel like I'm ready to tackle doing more of those activities. So we recently started doing like single leg drop jumps, single leg box jumps, single leg hops, like bounding, stuff like that. And I still feel like every single time I have this, oh my gosh, like I'm gonna re-rupture thought that pops up into my head. So I'm trying to like suppress that, because it's not good to walk around thinking you're always gonna re-rupture too, because I've clearly built the strength back up. I can do like 35-pound single leg calf raises for 20 reps at this point without losing any height. Obviously, it's not as good as it used to be. It's not going to be for a while, but I'm still only like 6 months post-op, right? And I also had that partial re-rupture around week 14. So I'm really only 3 months post that partial re-rupture. And I have to keep reminding myself that this is the process. And we're not even halfway through with the process. Like, I think this is going to be a year-long recovery. I'm giving myself a whole year, and I'm not going to push it. I'm just going to let things kind of work themselves out over time. Like, there's going to be good days and bad days. And I'm learning that the bad days don't mean that I'm not progressing, and the good days don't mean that I'm ready to do all the crazy stuff yet. So it's been kind of a mindset shift and very enlightening sort of injury. So there's not a lot of things other than that I wanted to say this time, but I am going to start physical therapy with a new therapist, Haley, soon. I'll be 7 months post-op when I start working with her, and then I'll be working with Nate 1 day a week, Megan 1 day a week, and Haley 1 day a week. Haley, we're going to be working towards gymnastics specific goals. As a previous gymnast, I could just do a backflip whenever I wanted to. I want to be back to able to do that. So that's what we're going to work on. And then Megan and I are going to work on more plyometrics, more running type activities, because I want to be able to go for a mile run. I want to be able to just go sprint whenever I want to. Those are goals that I have. So I'm going to work with her on those. And then with Nate, I'm going to continue to work on strengthening and getting ready to return to Olympic weightlifting, maybe even powerlifting this year, and progressively getting stronger. So 3 therapists on my team now. They all work at the PhysioFix, so they work at my facility, and it's an honor to have them on my team and for them to help guide me along this journey. So I'll link their information below too. If you have any questions, or if you also want to work with them or work with me, we would love to work with you. We work in person in Phoenix, Arizona, and we also work online with people from all around the world. You don't have to have an Achilles injury. If you want to just work on injury reduction, so injury prevention stuff, we do that too. We can work on mobility, strength, you name it, we can help you. So let me know if you have any questions, and I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I will make sure to include more specifics in the next one now that my Zion trip is over. Have a good day.